Hello my gorgeous loves out there and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to talk about 10 palettes that I almost purchased but then didn't and give you all the reasons why I ended up passing on the purchase. But before we get into this video, if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Bree and I am just a crazy lover of all things beauty and I like to post a lot of fun and colorful makeup content. I like to do a lot of indie makeup, so if that's what you're into, then please hit that subscribe button and join this little family. With that being said, let's get into this video. Loves, I have thought about doing this video for a while. I just thought it was like a fun idea to see why people end up pulling out of a purchase and why they end up getting a palette. And just, you know, being a curious person and someone who loves to talk about palettes. So I decided to film one myself and I picked just 10 because I could go on how many palettes that I put in a cart and then backed out of. There's a lot. So I wanted to narrow it down and I'm only doing releases that came out this year because there are things from other years too. So I wanted to make it easier for me, but of course I'll put the photo of the palette I'm talking about and give you guys all the reasons why I ended up passing on the purchase and whether I have any FOMO about any of these palettes at this point. Also, before we get into this video, if you're wondering how I did my eye look, I did film this with the new Nomad. This is the Monteverde Cloud Forest, which I filmed 2 looks with. That video should be up after this one. If I posted before for some reason, I'll link it below. If not, hit that notification bell so you're notified when that video comes up in case you're curious. It's very folly. It's kind of similar to a look I did in one of my other videos, but just in case you're wondering. But anyways, let's get into the palettes now. So the first one that I want to mention, I feel like this one's kind of obvious why I didn't end up getting it, but this is from P. Louise Cosmetics, a brand I still have yet to try, but this is the Money Shot eyeshadow palette. And it's a big one. It has like 2 rows of green eyeshadows from all different tones to brownie greens, murky greens, you know, more like true grass greens, forest greens, all that you can think of when it comes to green eyeshadows. And that sucked me in because greens are my most favorite colors to put on my eyes, like all types of greens. Like I just adore that color. So whenever a palette comes out and it has greens in it, I'm like, ooh, I think I need it. There's a lot of palettes you're gonna see that have greens in it that sucked me in. But then I had to like reel myself in and be like, is this realistic? Do I really need a palette this big full of greens that I know I have in my collection? I have tons of like green all color story palettes and other palettes that also have really good greens in it. And I was like, I don't think that this is practical for my makeup collection. And I feel like I would end up neglecting this because it is a super big bulky packaging. I've seen other people like hold up their like other palettes and it like opens up and it's thick and it has a big mirror and then you pull out the bottom drawer. Like, am I gonna take the time to pull out something bulky when I can get something a little bit more sleek, easy to grab? So I ended up talking myself out of that one. Then another one that I almost purchased, and I think it was more because of the affordable price tag, but this was from by Beauty Bay. This was their new Mood palette. And I was like, you know what, it's super cheap. I, you know, have been really loving the Beauty Bay formula. Like I like those little monochromatic 16 pan palettes that I purchased that were only $11. Like I was blown away by the whole experience and how they performed. So like maybe I need to like keep on this trend and keep buying the Beauty Bay palettes. But as I looked at it closer, it's a half neutral, half colorful palette. And it looks pretty, but at the end of the day, I have a lot of palettes that look like this. And, you know, if it didn't have all those neutral shades in it, and it had a little bit more mix of colors, I could see myself picking it up. But because, like, the whole top row of this palette is nudes, and then the second row has some, like, more nudie shades, and then you get further down, you have some color, like a green, blue colors, and then you have a little bit of nudes like in the corner bottom part. And I was like, you know what? I don't really need this. It is pretty. I like how it looks, and I've been really enjoying their formula recently. But I know that this is not my exact type of color story. Like I have to be real with myself. I'm not one to go to neutrals very often. And I like more colorful, interesting color stories, and this wasn't interesting enough, but it was in my cart. It was. I almost purchased this, as well as some other things on Beauty Bin. I was like, you know what? No, back out. I don't need it. I am trying to buy less makeup. I don't need it. So I ended up passing on that one. And then the next palette is from a brand that I've been wanting to try for some time now. And I go back and forth on this palette. Like, I've added it to the cart so many times, but I have yet to pull the trigger on this. And this is from Danessa Myricks Beauty. This is the Mini Lightwork Volume 3 palette. And it's supposed to be full of like special dual chromes, multi-chromes, you know, high dimensional metallics. And I love those kind of shades. I love having special metallics in my collection. And I feel like this brand has just an appeal to them. Like, it's a very artistry brand. You're just gonna make like effortless, glowy, shimmery, beautiful, you know, goddess makeup is what I imagine from this brand. And I tried to get the holiday version of this palette last like Christmas time. They had like a bigger Lightwork volume like palette or something, and it sold out everywhere. And I tried so hard to pick that up. Like, I went to all the different websites, I set up notifications, and I did end up getting notified from Sephora. And then when I went to the site, it was sold out. And I had so much FOMO from that palette. Like, I wanted it so bad. So when I saw this one and it was more like in a mini version, I was like, perfect, I need this in my life. But what always stops me from getting this is the price tag. It is $85 for 8 shades. And I know that multi-chromes and all that are very expensive to formulate, but somehow, because I don't know what their shadows are going to be like, I can't justify the price. I don't know. I do have a lot of special shades from like Davina and Cleona and Terra Moon. Like, I don't need it, but it's one that I go back and forth on. And then there's this palette. And this is a brand that I haven't tried, but I've been curious about them. I feel like they come out with cute releases. But this is from Martine Cosmetics. This is the Diner eyeshadow palette. And I've seen some reviews on it. Like, they were mostly positive reviews. I do feel like they're more on the pricey end. The palette is $55, so it is more like high-end pricing. I think they're an indie brand, but I did think this was cute. It had like some pastels in here, some teals. There's a little bit of neutrals, some pinks. There's a black. It just, the packaging too is kind of appealing, but it does look like bulky packaging, so I don't know if I need a bulky palette in my life. But I almost got this. Like, I put it in the cart, I found a discount code and everything, and I was like, you know what, I want to try this brand, I'm going to check out. And you know what, for some reason I didn't. And I know I have these shadows in other palettes, like pastels and teals and neutrals and things like that, that I could probably dupe this palette. And someone left a comment on one of my videos saying that I think they mentioned this brand as being overhyped, like they're just not as good as people are saying it is for, you know, the price tag of the palette. So that also swayed me from getting this. But I mean, I might be wrong. You guys can tell me if you tried any of these palettes and they're like bomb and worth it. Let me know. Or if they're not worth it, also let me know in the comments below. I would appreciate the info. Then the next palette, which is on the expensive side. It's from a more like bougie artist brand, but this is Ismaya, which I believe the owner is like a makeup artist. They've worked on supermodels, so you got supermodel price tagging. So this is the Industrial Color Pigments eyeshadow palette, and it goes for $115. And it is a really pretty color story. There's greens in there, some like gray purples. There's this kind of fiery looking orangey red coral shade, and it looks pretty. Like, the presentation looks gorgeous on this, but at the end of the day, it is a more neutral palette with a few pops of color, and it's a brand I'm not familiar with, so I don't feel comfortable paying that price. And I was almost tempted to watch reviews, but then I was afraid that I would watch reviews and then they would make me want to buy it when I'm trying not to buy makeup, especially expensive makeup. So I passed on it, but I am still curious. Maybe one day I will try this brand because I do think the palette looks pretty. But at the end of the day, I do have colors like this, and I'm sure I could dupe this. I mean, most of these palettes I could probably dupe with what's in my, you know, collection already. Then there's this palette that I have also added in my cart in Ulta quite a few times. And I really did want to get this, but the more I waited and like settled my, desire and my need to have it because it was new, I changed my mind on this. So this is the Nouveau palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills, which is a more nudie palette that has like muted khaki greens in here. There's a few kind of like corally muted shades in here too, and I was like, you know what, this is kind of intriguing and it looks really pretty. I like the packaging. Overall, I've had a really nice experience with Anastasia's like formula, and I've enjoyed most of the palettes and products that I've tried from them, and I was like, you know what, this is pretty. It is $55. It is on the pricier side, and I almost got it, and I think it was more the khaki greens that are pulling me in. But if I like kind of blocked out the khakis, it is a real neutral palette at the end of the day. And I was like, I don't need to add any more neutrals in my collection. And I need to not want it just because there's a few greens in there when I have khaki greens and like muted greens like this already in my collection. Then the next palette, which I want it for the same reasons as the ABH palette, but this was from Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics. This was the Luxe Legacy eyeshadow palette, and 20 shades in it, and it was like a nudie palette, but it had the khaki greens in there, which pulled me in. It looked like a grayish blue in there, and it was like kind of leaning cool tone, which is what I like when it comes to neutrals. If I want a neutral palette, I go to the cool tones, and then it has the pop of like a little bit of color that I like. I love my khakis. And I was curious about like how the formula was going to be from Jaclyn, and coming out with their first palette in her like brand. And I did watch some reviews, and a lot of them were meh. Like they liked it, but was it like something they really needed? Like they were just like, it's okay at the end of the day. And I was like, do I really just need a just okay palette anymore? I have an extensive collection, and I want to make sure I have bomb palettes in my collection. Like that's all I want in my collection now. Then the next palette is from Kylav Beauty, and this is the Art Nouveau palette. It goes for $42. It's a rainbow palette, and I almost purchased this many times actually because I was like, you know what, let me get this and like the other palettes that I didn't pick up, because I really did love the Impressionism palette and the Rococo palette. I think the formula is really nice from them. And the reason why I stopped and said, you know what, be real. You have so many rainbow palettes in your life that you already love. Do you really need another rainbow palette? And some of the reviews I was seeing was talking about like the metallics being more on the muted end and not like super foiled. And I love super foiled metallics. And really what they stand out for is their mattes. But I have really good rainbow palettes that have both really good metallics and really good mattes. So I feel like at the end of the day, I would end up reaching for those ones over the Kylav palette. And then there's this one, and it's pretty. It's like a springy kind of color story. This is the Lily palette. I think it's called the Lily palette from Clarity Cosmetics. And for some reason, I've gone back and forth on this brand. I haven't ever tried anything from them, but I've seen mixed reviews on their palettes. Like some people really love them, some people like they're okay, some people didn't like it, and like I'm not sure which one would be my opinion at the end of the day. And they have really beautiful color stories. Like all their palettes I find so intriguing. Like I think who's ever creating the color stories are doing amazing. And this Lily palette looks really pretty. It looks really springy. It had like a minty metallic, a minty matte, some oranges, some berry tones. And I was like, that is pretty. I could see so many pretty looks come out of this palette. But I'm on the fence about this brand. You guys will have to tell me, if you tried Clarity Cosmetics, have you had a good experience? Should I be trying the brand? Then the last palette, which I think we're at number 10. I hope we are. Hopefully I can count. But this is the palette from Lunar Beauty, the Nude Prism palette. And there's many times I almost purchased this, as well as the lip oils, which I've heard many good things about the lip oils. But I was like, do I really need a big nude palette? And I know I don't, because I don't go to nudes very often. Like I rarely ever will have a nudie eyeshadow look on. Sometimes I like to do that when I want to go in with something really bold on the lips, but I do have staple nude palettes already in my collection from like Nabla and things like that, and I tend to go to cooler tone neutrals. So this one is more on like the nude neutral side. I like the setup. I like how they set up the rose and everything. And yet again, I am a very loyal customer to Lunar Beauty. I think they have an amazing formula. I love the two palettes that I've tried. The Eternal Eclipse palette, which is a cool tone nudie palette that has like some pops of teals in there. And I also love the Moonspell Volume 2. That one has like the berries and the reds. And so I was like, well, maybe I need to complete my collection and have the nudie option. But I just know I wouldn't give it enough love that it needs. And so I pass, but I love Lunar Beauty, and hopefully they come out with something fun for Halloween. I know that they typically do like Halloween collections and launches, so I'm excited for that. I can't wait to see if they come out with something new. Maybe a little bit more color, I'm all about. Anyways, guys, that was all the palettes that I wanted to mention. The 10 that I almost bought, but didn't for, one reason or another. But I would love to hear from all of you. Like, what are some palettes you passed on? Or do you have any feedback on any of these palettes or brands? I would love to hear from you guys in the comments below. Also, if you're new here and you enjoyed this video, you like a lot of fun, colorful makeup content, you like a lot of things on indie makeup and eyeshadow palettes, then please hit that subscribe button and join this little family. I'd love to have you here. Also, don't forget to check out the description below. I will link all the palettes that I mentioned. I'll link other videos of mine you might be interested in, as well as the makeup that I'm wearing. I will also have my contact and my social media platforms. I'm also on Instagram as Breezy Lifestyle and Breezy_beauty. So if you want to check me out over there, I would really, really love that. But guys, thank you so much for being here, for taking the time out of your day, for actually clicking on my video, supporting my channel, being here, supporting me. I really appreciate all of you guys, and I think you guys are all so amazing, and I just hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world, and I'm just sending you all so much light and love. But until next time, bye guys.